Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Today is Thursday, July the 23rd. Yesterday, we did have Google and Tesla earnings in the after hours. Overall, pretty negative reaction after the earnings that we did have, which was fairly solid. But overall, markets, we are having a little bit of a pullback coming into today. Qs underneath our previous day lows. We do have a gap fill towards the downside SPY, showing a little bit more weakness here as well. Semis yesterday, we end up having a nice bounce towards the upside. AMD, Nvidia, nice trades. You had a couple other tickers as well. But overall, with the markets pulling back still inside of this range, we can still expect a little bit more consolidation slash range. Of course, there is a couple of things to talk about. We do have unemployment. We do have INTC earnings later today. Before we head on to the charts, what's up, everyone? Good morning. What's up, J-Tan? B Roots. What's up, Maria? What's up, Kelvin, Lamit, Cody, Knight? Good morning, Kevin, Juan. What's up, Wad, Ron, Beeson? Good morning, David, Alejandro. What's up, Leon? What's up, Jose? Good morning, Maria, Robert, Greg. What's up, Andrea, Ashley, Miss Reggie? Yeah, with that being said, hope you guys are doing well. Let me pull up the economic calendar along with the earnings that we do have, at least for today. Let's hit a refresh real quick here as well. What do we have for the red folder news events, at least for today? As for the overnight session, not really too many stories to keep an eye out for, not really affecting the market as much. The main thing was the earnings that we had last night. But this morning, we do have some some orange folder news. That is going to be unemployment at 8:30. Not really expecting it to impact the market, so we will go over some charts for the next 20 minutes. We'll see how unemployment kind of shapes up the market. As I mentioned, I'm not really expecting this to affect the market. This was our only orange folder news event for this week. As for the earnings that we have, yesterday we had Google and Tesla. These are the main names that you can see are, of course, affecting the markets. Today we do have INTC. That's going to be a big one for the semiconductors. And then right now we have Nokia. There's a couple other ones to keep an eye out for, but main thing is going to be INTC here today. So that being said, let's hop straight into the chart, starting off with, of course, the with the major indices, and then we'll make our way down to, of course, the tech names. Let's go into the hourly time frame, or we can even stick to the 15-minute. Nothing's really changed for this week in specific. As you can see, we've just been more so ranging in between this 710 along with this 698. And then on the SPY, we really haven't done too much this week in between that 749 along with that 741 on the higher time frame. So if we go back into the Qs coming into today, key levels that we're going to have marked out is going to be that previous day lows along with that full gap fill that we have down towards that 698. Yesterday, price basically opened up at our 704 key level support. Nice bounce coming to market open, back up and towards the 710. But as you can see, wasn't unable to break above the 710, faded towards the downside. And of course, with earnings now, we are currently gapping down here underneath that previous day lows. So coming to market open here for the Qs, what we're going to keep an eye on is that previous day lows, maintain underneath previous day lows, pop and fade, push down in towards that full gap fill is in play, down into that 698. Of course, underneath our 698, you could see a bigger retracement in the markets here as well. That's going to be that full gap fill towards the downside. So these are the two scenarios for a push lower. If you want to see a potential bounce play coming to market open, number one, either the bounce back above and reclaim that previous day lows for a push higher, or now the bounce off our that gap fill, which is at 698 for that pushback towards the upside, which would be that previous day lows. So two scenarios for upside, two scenarios for downside, the reclaim setup or the bounce off that 698. If we go on to the NQ features, key levels that we have marked out is going to be that 28,900. The level towards the upside in this case is going to be that 29,100. Same similar thesis, the bounce play for a push higher or the reclaim back above that previous day lows is in play for a push towards the upside. If you want to maintain a weak bias here in the markets underneath that 29,100 pop and fade, or now underneath that 28,900 for a push towards the downside. Let's go on to the SPY chart here. Now this one, as I mentioned, more so ranging compared to the rest of the markets. Right now, as you can see, if you go on to the higher time frames, key levels that we have marked out is our our 740 all the way back up and towards that 756. You can see this is the bottom of the range, multiple touches here. And what we have is the middle of the range, which is our 748. We can just draw out this general area. And now you can see price tried breaking above this area yesterday. We've tried breaking above the past couple of days here as well, but it seems like every time we come up, there is a rejection, and now we're most likely going to gravitate back down in towards the bottom of the range. So the key levels that we have marked out is our 740 here on the higher time frames. You could also mark out that previous day lows. Right now, we're just looking for the hold underneath that previous day lows for a trade down in towards 740. If we're talking about the actual levels that we have marked out on the SPY today, previous day lows marked out along with our 740 here on the higher time frames. You can see bounce inside the middle of the range. Yesterday, bounce in the pre-market right off that previous day lows. Nice push towards the upside. Broke above it, but ultimately closed back underneath. We had a mini head and shoulders on the 15-minute, and now you can see we're underneath our previous day lows. So coming to market open, if you want to maintain a bearish bias in the markets, right now we have more of a neutral stance leaning slightly bearish, but underneath that 745 continuation towards the downside, underneath that 741, we can see a bigger push lower towards the downside here as well. As for any sort of potential upside movement, reclaim back above that 745, flip back towards the upside is in play, or now would be the bounce play looking for a pushback towards the upside. This would be the bounce off 741 for a pushback up and towards our 745. So this is what we have for the SPY coming into market open here. If we go on to the ES, the key levels that we have marked out, similar thesis, what we have marked out on the hourly time frame is this range. We have equilibrium, and then we have our range high plus our range low. Currently, we just went from our range high, and now we're most likely going to gravitate all the way back down in towards this range low. Key levels for today is going to be that previous day lows. Underneath that previous day lows, we can see a push down in towards that higher time frame level of support. Or now if we get underneath that higher time frame level of support, we can see more continuation lower here as well. If you want to see a bounce play, reclaim back above that previous day lows, or now the bounce off our 74.80 for a pushback towards the upside here on the ES. Okay, so that's what we have for the major indices coming into today's SPY and the QQQ. At least for this morning, as I mentioned, we are opening up underneath our previous day lows. I have a slightly bearish stance coming to market open, looking for that gap fill back towards the downside. If we go into the regular trading hours, you can see we have a couple gaps created, right? This is a gap that we left unfilled earlier into the week. This was from Monday to Tuesday. You can see a gap yesterday was filled back towards the upside. The gap that we created here over the weekend was filled. This is really the only gap that we don't have filled. So now coming to market open, there's a possibility that we can just fill the gap towards the downside. But as you can see, we're going to actually have now a gap back towards the upside. We could be looking for this bounce off our 698 for this reversal trade all the way back up and towards that previous day lows, along with that previous day close here. So expecting a push lower right off the bat, and let's see if we can potentially bounce later into the session to fill that gap back towards the upside. Of course, if we do get underneath that 698, hold underneath, there is more room towards the downside, 688, if we can break underneath this key level support here on the QQQ. All right, with that being said, we'll head on to the SMH here, and then we'll head on to some tech names that we do have for us today. If you guys do have any charts or any tickers, you guys would like me to go over, you guys can drop them in the chat here now. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like and sub. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below. As for the SMH, let's go on to this one. As you can see this week so far, we've reclaimed back above key technical levels. We defended this level nicely, 570 on the higher time frames, touch here. Multiple touches, rejection, flip, and then buyer stepped in yesterday above that 570 for that push, of course, back towards the upside. And we also created a higher low here on the hourly time frame. So nice buyers that stepped in yesterday right off that 570, right off that previous day lows coming into market open for a nice push towards the upside. Now, as you can see, we're pulling back. We're kind of right around this 585 general area. This is the exact levels that I have marked out on the SMH. So coming into market open here, if you want to see a flip back towards the upside, preferably above our 585 for a flip back up and towards our previous day highs. If we reject, get back underneath, we can see a flip down in towards our 575 for a push all the way back down in towards that previous day lows here on the SMH. So the semiconductors have been a little bit more stronger this week compared to the rest of the markets. You can see we're pushing higher here on the semis. The Qs is closer to our Monday's close. And then for the SPY, similar thing, closer to that Monday's close, whereas the semis, we are a little bit above it, right? Roughly 40 or roughly 20 points above our Monday's close. So the semiconductors have definitely been a little bit stronger this week. We had the semis have been beaten down quite a bit, but we've seen some strength here on the lower time frames. Now we just like to see, as I mentioned, moving forward above our 570 for continuation. If we can maintain above 570, maintain a bullish bias. If we break back underneath, that's when it's going to see a flip, and we can see a push right back down in towards 560 and below here, of course. All right, with that being said, we'll start off here on Tesla. This one is dropping, of course, in the pre-market with the earnings that we've had. If you guys, as I mentioned, do have any charts or any tickers, you guys can drop them in the chat here now. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below. Gonna grab some water here before we head on to the tech names. It seems like we're good for time today. We do have unemployment in roughly 12 minutes, and then we'll head on to a few other tickers here as well. Okay, so we'll start off on Tesla here. This one, as I mentioned, does have earnings, or just had earnings last night. And as you can see now, we are dropping towards the downside. We are actually making a brand new low on this ticker. So for Tesla, let's talk about this a little bit more from a higher time frame perspective. The key area in the line in the sand that we have drawn out is this 380 kind of general area. You can mark this out as an area. On the higher time frames, you can see touch here. Use this as support, bounce earlier into the year. You can see multiple touches, another touch, but not really any fall through. We're unable to break a brand new high, which is at all-time highs. And I can see this one is definitely pulling back, and we're coming back into that key level of support here for Tesla. If you go onto the daily time frame, as you can see, we recently broke underneath that number one, we had our 380 marked out, so we're already a little bit weaker. This is the area that we have marked out, and now we came back down into that 370. So 380 was the line where we wanted to see maintain. You can see a couple bounce plays. We broke underneath 380, bounced off 370, came back down once we broke back underneath 380 this time, stayed heavy, and now, of course, with earnings, we're back down in towards 350. Next levels on Tesla is going to be this higher time frame key level, 350 to our 340. This is our yearly lows from April of this year. So as you can see, price is pushing towards the downside. On Tesla moving forward, what we like to see is a reaction that we have off 340. If we can see some buyers step in, we can see a potential move back towards the upside. Not expecting this to happen on day number one, of course. If we can break underneath that 350 and that 340, we can definitely see a bigger push towards the downside here in the market. So for Tesla, let's turn back on the drawings here. Let's turn back on let's mark this out and let's go on to the lower time frames. So as you can see, coming to market open, breaking underneath that 370, we are about to approach our higher time frame level of support, which is that 340. You can see Tesla's really just been in a downtrend coming into market open. So that is expected right after that first initial reaction, right? We were more unable to get back above that 370. So next level really is 340 on the higher time frames. As for Tesla coming to market open here today, key levels that we have marked out is just going to be that 340. We're going to be looking for that potential 340 bounce. Not as interested in this type of opportunity here on Tesla, right? We could be looking for the potential mean reversion. Might be a little bit more difficult for a day number one earnings play, but we'll keep an eye on this on Tesla. And of course, for a short side move, we can be looking for any sort of pop to fade towards the downside, down and towards that 340. In this case, the only level I'm going to have marked out is going to be that after hours low. So we can mark out this, drag it over. 350, 250 is going to be the key area for a potential pop and fade towards the downside. Of course, if you're looking to trade names like this, the IV is going to be elevated. So you're going to have to see what's called an IV flush on the contracts. So for something like Tesla, right, you like to see a pop, right, the IV cool off, and then you can look for a pop and drop, or sorry, a pop and fade for a move back down in towards our 340 here on the higher time frame. So that's what I have for Tesla coming into today. Watch list not in the link. If you go into the link, yes, you'll have it. If you join the free the free WAP that I have in the description, I posted and you'll get a notification. You'll usually get some emails receiving the watch list every day. How much is the chance of Tesla going to reverse or most likely continuation towards the downside? For Tesla, we're coming into a key technical level of support. So we could see, as I mentioned, that bounce off that 340, but it definitely is going to take a little bit longer if we do want to see any sort of major reversal. We could form a potential kind of double bottom here on the weekly. We already bounced here, right? Broke above, bounced again. We could see this more so kind of this double bottom right off of our 340 here on the higher time frames. But as I mentioned, it's going to take a little bit longer to develop, with Tesla definitely being a little bit weaker. Some of the overall markets are pulling back as well. Tesla is going to be a little bit more difficult. Plus, we're going to have to see some strong buyers off this 340. Okay, let's go on to AMD. Okay, AMD here end up having a nice push up in towards the 560 here on the higher time frame. So the area or the previous consolidation level that we have marked out was this general area, which is that 560 down in towards that 480. You can see we broke outside, reclaimed, and we end up pushing all the way back towards the upside. So this is the area that we rejected from multiple times here on AMD. If we're to just draw out the main levels, it's just going to be this right here, 500 all the way up in towards that 560. And now as you can see, we end up having a nice push towards the upside yesterday. A little bit of buyers are kind of stepping in right off of our 560. And now we're having a couple reactions here in the pre-market. So you can see touch here, some sellers are stepping in. What are some of the key levels that we have marked out today? The main key levels that we have marked out is going to be our high that we created here on Tuesday, and we can drag this down. As you can see yesterday, once we got above our previous day highs, nice continuation up and towards that 560. Now with us having a couple reactions for AMD today, maintain above our 550 for a continuation towards the upside. Above our previous day highs would be in play here as well for a pushback towards the upside. So for AMD, keep an eye on that keep an eye on that Tuesday's highs for continuation or above our previous day highs. Of course, if we do flip back underneath, we can see a push right back towards the downside. Underneath that 5, it's our 548. We can see a push down in towards that 540 and potentially below here on the higher time frame. So that's what I have for AMD coming into today. As for Nvidia was one of the watches yesterday as well. We ended up having a nice push towards the upside. Later into the session, once we did break above that previous day highs along with that 206, as you can see, nice trade up in towards that 212. Ultimately now, pretty nice candle close. Had a nice push up in the pre-market, or sorry, the after hours, but now we're dropping in the pre-market and we're in between its previous day's range. So on the hourly time frame, key levels that we have marked out is going to be this right here, 212, along with our 200. You can see we end up having that nice trade once we got back above equilibrium, got back above 206. Nice trade towards the upside. As you can see now, we do have some sellers that are stepping in above this area. And now it seems like we are going to come back inside of this range here on Nvidia, back down into that original breakout level. So that's what we have for Nvidia coming into today. Right, key levels is going to be that 212. If we maintain underneath 212, we can see a push down in towards that 208. If we can get back above our 212, we can see, of course, continuation, and you can be looking for a reclaim setup back up in towards that previous day highs. Let's go on to Apple. This one is consolidating as of recent. Key levels that we have marked out is our 328. Flip back towards the upside here is in play for a move back towards the highs. Google is another ticker that had earnings last night. As you can see, pretty sharp rejection off that 370. This one, of course, is pulling back now as well. And we broke underneath a key technical level of support. Touch here, multiple touches around this general area. And now we are definitely showing a lot more weakness with this gap down plus earnings as well. If you go on to the lower time frames, as you can see, broke underneath that 348 on the higher time frames. Next levels that we do have on Google is actually going to be all the way down in towards this daily gap. We have a couple other daily gaps here as well. So there's a couple areas to keep an eye out for here on Google. Other levels that I'm going to have marked out here now is going to be that previous day lows, or we can mark out that original news candle low, which is our 330. I actually like this level a little bit better. 330 is our key level for today. We can be looking for a potential pop and fade for a push towards the downside off our 330 for a push down towards our 320. As I mentioned, the day one earnings reversal play is most likely out of the picture. With the overall markets dropping here, we could see a potential day one earnings reversal, but very unlikely that this would occur. And most likely it's going to stay heavy for the first couple of days. All right, for Netflix, we do also have one more minute until the unemployment claims here. For Microsoft, so far we are getting that rejection off that 400 that I talked about. And it seems like we're trying to fade back towards the downside. As for Meta, we end up filling the gap back towards the downside here, rejected off that 650. And now we're pushing back down in towards that 630 here on the higher time frames underneath. As for Amazon, this one's flipping back underneath that 250. So a lot of these tickers are definitely showing a little bit more weakness now, of course, with the Qs dropping. As you can see now, the Qs is actually all the way back down in towards that full gap fill. So Qs, we talked about SPY most likely gravitating down in towards our key level support. So now you can see it's actually dropping here in the pre-market. So we'll keep an eye on the reaction that we have off this area coming into market open. As for Netflix, this one is now just kind of roughly right around that original earnings high day. And then SpaceX, this one is showing a lot more weakness every single day, as I mentioned for SpaceX. We haven't even had the lockup period as of yet. And you can see every day we've just been dropping towards the downside. So for SpaceX, now the next key levels is just going to be our 100 key psych. But levels that we have marked out, 123. You can see bounce here. Once we broke back underneath, nice push towards the downside. Okay. With that being said, let's go back onto the Economic calendar here, we just had some unemployment as well, which came in a little lower than expected, but it seems like we're not having too much of a reaction here in the markets. But for unemployment forecasted to 11 came in lower than expected, 187. And as for the overall markets, as I mentioned, not too much of a reaction here with the unemployment. We are already back down into now our key level support on the higher time frames, which is our 740 here on the SPY. So with that being said, if you guys do have any charts or any tickers, I'll go over some for the next 5 to 10 minutes. You guys can now drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, appreciate it if you guys drop a like and sub. Let's see if we can get to 200 likes. And of course, if you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that is in the description below here as well. Let's see, Google News, EU fine 1 billion, stopped out of NVIDIA trailers before the big push up yesterday. Yes, for NVIDIA. Unfortunately, this one was a nice trade up and towards that previous day highs. Wasn't expecting this big of a push up with especially the SPY and Qs ranging, right? The Qs was ranging in between our previous, this range that we had. We're just looking for that push up and towards that previous day highs. Nvidia had a really solid push after breaking above our previous day highs. I think we had some news as well, but we ended up trading Nvidia towards the upside. It came back once again to that 206, and then the next trade, as you can see, really saw a push. We had a big break and then really saw a move all the way up in towards that 212. So that was nice. There wasn't too much else that happened yesterday besides that Nvidia move, but as you can see now with the Qs, right, this is what happens. It doesn't last too long. Even with the strength that we've had, you can see it's already back down into that previous breakout level, and that's just what happens with, of course, the Qs and SPY inside of a range on the higher time frames. All right, let's go on to some of the names that we have here, starting off with MU. MU, nice bounce. Yesterday, back towards the upside. We're maintaining above key technical levels here as well. One of the main levels that we have marked out is our 880, and then other levels that we have marked out yesterday was just our previous day lows. This one didn't even come back down into that 900. Had a nice bounce right off our 920, push towards the upside. Now the key levels that we have marked out is, of course, just going to be, we can just get rid of this, is going to be that previous day highs. We can mark out this area. And as you can see, there's a couple other touches here in the pre-market, but really key level is going to be 980 for MU. Today, above our 980, we can see a flip back up and towards our pre-market highs in 1000. If we reject, we can see a push right back down in towards 950, which is our previous day close or that general area here. But for MU, we like to see it now above 980. SNDK, nice bounce right off our key technical level yesterday, 1520. INTC, of course, does have earnings today, so be a little bit more patient. It actually is coming back for a retest here off our, basically a retest off a key level support. So potentially we can see a rejection here on INTC for a move back towards the downside. Of course, if we do want to see some upside, we need it above this 105, 106. We do have earnings. So there's not really too much to talk about, at least for technicals wise. We'll just be waiting for the reaction that we have after earnings. WDC, this one, nice bounce on a couple of these memory tickers. WDC right off 520. Nice push towards the upside. Strong candle close. Now the key levels that we have marked out is going to be that previous day highs. Drag this over here as well. Above 560, potential flip. Rejection, we can see a little bit of a pullback here on WDC. As for DRAM, let's take a look at this one. This is the memory ETF. If we're looking at this on the daily time frame, we can plot out the EMAs here as well. Right now, we're trying to push back towards the upside, trying to reclaim back above our 56 level of resistance, turn into support, bounce here, got underneath. Now we're reclaiming. What we like to see now on DRAM moving forward is maintain back above our 56 for a pushback towards the upside. So this is what we have on this one. That's a higher time frame key technical level. If we turn back on the drawings, key levels that we have marked out is going to be that 56 bounce play for a move back towards the upside. If we can get back above our previous day highs, potential flip here as well for a pushback towards the highs as for a pushback towards the upside here as well. Okay, as for the rest of the names, SK Hynix, this one's respecting key levels. I haven't changed any of the levels on this name, but they are respecting very nicely 176, 168, down into that 152. We'll head on to Palantir. This one actually showed some relative weakness yesterday. I had a nice push towards the downside. On Palantir, this one, pretty weak candle closure on the higher time frames. As you can see yesterday, we had kind of this wedge pattern forming on the higher time frames, and we actually ended up breaking towards the downside all the way back in towards our key level support here. So for Palantir, broke underneath this period of consolidation. We kind of had this range marked out. Once we broke underneath that 130, all the way back down in towards that 120 level of support. So for Palantir, not too much to talk about here now. Key levels that we can have marked out, we kind of just refine this. Previous day lows, this is our 123. Other levels that we can have marked out is just going to be the area that we broke down from. We can just mark out an intraday pivot from yesterday. Key level that we have marked out 127. So that's what we have for a couple tickers for today. Does anyone know how he has pre-market data? You just go onto the extended trading hours. If you don't have it, you're most likely on the regular trading hours. You can click extended. If you're trading SPX, you're not going to have pre-market data. If you trade stocks, futures, you're going to have that pre-market data. If you trade futures, the zones are going to be turned off, but you'll be able to see it if you turn on that. It seems like the Qs is dropping here pretty decent amount here in the pre-market actually. So coming into market open, game plan for today. As you can see, we are dropping towards the downside. We're showing a little bit more weakness underneath our previous day lows. We are going to have a gap down into a key level support. So coming into today, down about 1.32%. That's been the theme almost every day. Big moves in the overnight session. It just makes it for a little bit more difficult trading conditions coming into market open. But for Qs, we'll keep an eye on this potential bounce play coming into today for a move back up and towards 702. If I want to see some more downside now, it's going to have to be the break underneath, hold underneath that previous day lows, or sorry, not that previous day lows, 698 for a quick trade towards the downside, or it'll be more of a 5-minute setup for a push lower. SPY, similar thing. It's going to be a little bit tough to break underneath this key level support, but if we can do that, there's a lot more room towards the downside. You can see based off the hourly chart, we are about to come back down into that 740, touch here, touch here, touch here, touch here, touch here. If we break underneath this 740, this is a good move towards the downside. This is a trade we want to look to capture, especially this 740 break here on the SPY, down in towards that 735 and below. If we bounce aggressively coming to market open, then we're just going to see a push back up in towards that 745. But if we break coming to market open, hold underneath, then we can be looking for a continuation lower. That's the game plan here on the major indices for today. That's really the main thing to keep an eye out for. Semis are now starting to pull back here as well. But as for the main watches, we'll keep an eye out on Tesla for potential pop and fade today for a push towards the downside. And then the rest of the names, AMD, we'll keep an eye on ours 548. NVIDIA, this one now is going to come back down towards 208. There's a couple other tickers that, of course, are showing a little bit more weakness, but the main ones that we're going to look for if we're going to short the market is going to be the SPY and Qs itself. And then for any sort of long position, the semiconductors are still somewhat holding up as the markets are dropping. So semis are definitely a little bit stronger coming into today. Could very much well change with, of course, Intc earnings in the after hours. But at least for today, same game plan as per usual. We're going to come into the markets with a soft bias, and we're going to wait for the reaction off key areas almost every single day. Whenever we have a gap up with the direction, we usually end up going the opposite way. So now another gap down coming to market open, we could see a mean reversion. In this case, we are breaking underneath support, and we're showing pretty weak price action coming to market open, but don't have an overly bias of just shorting right off the bat, right? We want to be a little bit more patient, wait for the reaction that we have off key levels, and then based off that, we'll be looking to take a couple of trading opportunities. But yeah, with that being said, that's going to be it for me today. We do have a couple big things tonight with INTC earnings. overall markets, SPY, that 540 break is going to be key. So we'll keep an eye out on that. Even could break in the pre-market. So we'll keep an eye out on 540, or sorry, 740 here on the SPY. If we break underneath that, we could definitely see a bigger pullback here in the markets. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. I'm going to call it a session here. With that being said, I will see you guys all tomorrow. All right, take care, everyone. Peace.